I'm back. I'm here to have a live chat with Dani'el Norman, the fabulous creator of Ascension Tarot, Odin's Playbook Tarot, and the Walking Meditation Tarot. We were experiencing technical difficulties, so we are going to try this again. Let me just see if, yeah, just waiting on Danielle here. Should just be a moment. There we go. Okay, here we are.
There.
It seems to be working better. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we'll try it again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and lift myself up here a little bit.
Yeah, I know, getting everything adjusted. The
I
last time I
know
did a live, it
the
was so much
lighting,
fun. Yeah,
everything.
getting the lighting and everything else. Yeah,
It's
last
still a little
time,
dark here though. Let's see if what we can do here.
yeah.
Um,
Last time I did a live, my cell phone holder was super low, so I felt like I was doing this the whole
I
time. I got Dominic in to help me adjust it.
yeah,
He's a
yeah,
tech savvy one, so yeah.
that should be fine. I'm not gonna play with it.
No, that's great. Yeah, I was just mentioning that you are the fabulous creator of three decks, Ascension Tarot, this one here, and Odin's Playbook, and then the soon-to-be released, ever so fabulous Walking Meditation Tarot, which launches on June 7th. I'm so excited. This deck is phenomenal. I absolutely love the photos that you've included. It's wonderful. Before we get into the decks, actually, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your journey with tarot. How did you discover tarot as a practice? What was that like for you? Yeah, I'd love to know.
Yeah, it was actually from my mom. So when I came back from, so my mom was
Oh,
diagnosed with cancer in 2002. And then, so I was living in Australia at the time. I decided to come back.
mhm.
And she had like these Doreen Virtue Oracle cards. And I was like, ooh, like, what is this? Right? I was
Yeah,
mesmerized by it. And so, because when I came back home, I lived with her for a couple months, right? Before I got my own place again. And I would take them out every day. And I was like, wow, like these are so magical, right? And then she had like
yeah,
Doreen Virtue books. And so she bought me a book and I still have it. It's one of my very first ones. And then it just kind of like just spiraled from there. And then I learned that there was like other decks other than Oracle decks, right? So this would
yeah,
have been like what, 2000, yeah, 2003. So it
yeah.
was in 2000, it would have been 2005, 2006 that I got
Yeah.
my first tarot deck. And
Oh,
I would
amazing.
just pull a card every day, write down, like just to try and
Yeah,
learn. I'm like, this is so overwhelming, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm never going to learn the meanings of these, right? As we all think when we get our first tarot deck, it's like, we are never
yeah,
going to learn all of this, right? And
yeah,
I mean, there's always learning, but like the basic meanings of what each card means. So
yeah.
that was my journey.
Amazing.
And actually, I kind of put them away for a little bit. And it was in 2016 after like a breakup, a relationship where I was like, ooh, I got to get those cards back out because I have questions, right? So then that's when I
Yeah,
dived
yeah,
even deeper.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's never left my life. It's been 6 years now where it's been
Oh,
fully,
amazing.
fully prominent. Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh, that's amazing.
that.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's funny how I've definitely reached for my decks during stressful times or challenges. It's funny actually because I bought my first deck at the small metaphysical shop in Calgary. I want to say probably at least 20 years ago. It was a
Mhm.
Mystic Fairy Tarot, and it basically sat on my shelf gathering dust for a few
Yep.
years. And then the day my second daughter was born, she was born 7 weeks early, and I had just this really strong gut instinct to go and grab the deck.
Hmm.
So I pulled it off the shelf and I had a friend over for play dates. I did a reading for her and then I did a reading for myself. And the two things that came up were that I needed to trust my intuition and that the thing I was most afraid of wouldn't be as bad as I feared.
Oh my
And
gosh.
without missing a beat, I said, I'm so afraid that this kid's going to come early. That was
Yeah.
at noon. She was born at 8:37 that night. Um,
You
and it
pulled
gave me
cards at
exactly
noon.
what I needed.
You
What's
pulled
that?
cards at You pulled the cards at noon, and then she was born that
And
night?
she was born at 8:37 that night. Yeah.
Okay.
And I basically went to pick up my husband at the university at like 4:30, and by 5 o'clock my contractions are like 5 minutes apart, and I burst into tears and I'm like, I'm in labor. He's like, no, I'm sure it's fine. Then we got back, it was like all the preterm labor signs. We went to the hospital, got there at 6:30, and she was born at 8:37. It was just, I was
That's
in shock the whole time. And then the next day, I'm sitting in my hospital room. She's in the NICU. I'm totally stressed about all this. But I just remembered what cards I had pulled and how much that was exactly what I needed to get me through that incredibly stressful experience, right? And that was the first moment that was like, there's something to this, right? Like
absolutely.
it's, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like this
yeah,
faith friend to us that we can just reach.
hmm,
Our crystals too, you know, like we can,
yeah,
I call them my friends because I'm like, each one is
yeah,
different and tell us something different, you know, about ourselves
yeah,
too. No, I really,
absolutely.
really
And it's amazing how, I don't know about you, but for me, it's like it helps me figure out what's going on in my brain and my heart at any given point in time, because sometimes it can be hard to unpack that for yourself.
yeah.
But when you lay it down in front of you, it's like, oh yeah, right. That's
Okay.
exactly what's
Yeah.
happening, right? It's like that validation.
I know because it's already, we already know. We already
Yeah.
know, but it can just help us like compartmentalize things, right? Like
Mhm.
just, okay, yeah, it's, this is how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I've got three kids. My eldest is 14, and Adele, the one that arrived so early, is now
Yeah.
13, and she's amazing. And then my son just turned 10. So it's amazing thinking back about how long ago that was, and yet how strong that memory is, right? Like
Yeah.
it really cemented my relationship with tarot as a practice that really can help you
I
figure
know.
out what's going on and have that comfort, right?
All your posts, like you just, you're always asking questions. You're always like, okay, I just need to know. I just need to know. And I love that. Like you're diving into all these different, like, what would you call them? Like little, like things that other people are sharing, like all the
Yeah.
hashtags. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I follow a lot of challenges because I
Challenges.
find,
There you go.
yeah, doing that though, like there's often questions that I wouldn't have thought to ask in my own practice. And so it's really helpful if someone else poses something and it's like, oh yeah, I need to unpack that, right? It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
For us to
Yeah,
pick our own questions to ask, that's where it stumps me too.
yeah,
Look.
absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about tarot. Like when you get the core meanings down, there's still so much more to explore. Like my bookshelf
Yeah.
is overflowing with different books, each of which have different perspectives. And that's one of the things I love about different decks too. Like Dominic, my partner, he always shakes his head when a new tarot deck arrives because he's like, don't you have enough already? Like,
Look
you know,
away.
if he practiced, I know, just turn away. If he
Look
practiced, he'd have
away.
like one deck and one deck only, and that would be fine. But
Yeah.
for me, like I get different messages from this than I
Yeah.
do from this. And reading through guidebooks, there's always little insights that I hadn't necessarily considered or thought of, which is so magical in terms of like these two decks, for example, are very different, and yet there's a through line that you've created them, but the insights that you provide, it's unique to each of the decks, right? And there's a different feel to each of them that brings something different to the
I,
practice, right? Like,
I agree. Yeah.
yeah. Do you find that? Like, there's certain
Oh,
decks that you reach for at different times?
oh yeah. Like some
Yeah.
are just so incredibly grounding to like look at, right? And like just the
Hmm.
energy of it is just, so if I'm feeling like flighty, I reach for that grounding deck, which just like anchors me, you know? Or if I'm
Yeah.
feeling a little magical or mystical, I'll reach for that, like, you know, the Danielle
Yeah.
Norman, or, you know, like those bright colors,
Yeah.
like that just brings you into this different realm, you know? Because I think you need
Yeah.
that. You need that for, like one of my friends, Levi from Masculine Intuition Readings,
Yeah.
he always says, my readings don't differ from deck to deck. And I'm like, I like for me, no, like they have the basic meanings, but something else, some other element like just swoops in, you know, for me. So it's just like, I don't know, it just brings you to
Yeah.
a different dimension or realm kind of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I find that so much. So yeah, I thought I would start with talking about your fabulous decks with the Ascension Tarot. I'd love to know what that creative process was like, because that was your first deck, your baby, right? So what was it like creating it, and what was the process? Where did you find, like, I love that it's multimedia and there's lots of photos interspersed with really lovely backgrounds. So where did the photos come from and the inspiration? And yeah.
So all of the photos they're all of people that I know.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, but when I knew that I wanted to do the deck, well, then my guide's beaking, saying, you have to do this deck. And I'm like, no, 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 I can't do that. I don't know how to do anything like that. Like, what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Photoshop, I don't know any, like, nothing.
Yeah.
And so I started taking photos off of, like, the free stock photos, like, online.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I probably had half the deck done with stock photos. And then something told me, no, like, you can't be using, even if they're free stock photos, those are real people. And I don't know about you, but if I was to see myself in a deck and I didn't give permission for that person to have me in that deck, I'd feel kind of, I wouldn't like it. So I actually reached out to one of the stock photo people, emailed them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I know that these are free stock photos, but is there really permission to use these from the people? And he said, no, like, that's like, there's like this little line there. He's like, and he even said that if you were to see yourself in a picture somewhere in the world, how would you feel about that? And I'm like, you are right. Like, here you are giving free, but you can't really, you can, but you can't. So then I was like, oh man, okay, yes, I knew my intuition was right. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Well, I got lots of friends and family and acquaintances. And so I started messaging them. Hey, can I use this photo? Can I use this photo? You'd be great for this like this energy. And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then this deck just made. So that's
amazing.
Yeah. So that was the story between that. And it is funny, like, because if you see certain decks across the board, you'll see certain photos that a lot of people use.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you see similar photos, even in like mass market decks, you'll see the same, right? You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. So I steered away from that. I mean, that's okay. People can do what they want to do. But for me, I'm just like, I really love the Ascension Tarot because the energy was picked with each individual person.
Yeah, and it's so personal to you, and you have that connection with everyone that's depicted, and so it's easier to imbue the meanings of the cards if it's associated with that person that you feel that connection with. Yeah. And this is you, right?
It is.
I love it. Love it so much. That's amazing.
I know. Sometimes though, when I look at it, I'm like, oh, but I wanted to be in there as a mermaid.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but the Queen of Cups is the card that I associate with most in the tarot, for the minor arcana at least. And it's, and who doesn't want to be a mermaid? That's fabulous. It's amazing. Oh. So which cards in this particular deck did you find you had the most ease with? Which ones were most challenging? Like, what was the easiest and hardest aspect of this deck for you?
Well, it's funny with the deck, I didn't go in order at all, just as it came to me. And I can't even remember the first one. It's funny. I was going through, when I was like, there's a couple pictures in the Walking Meditation Tarot. I was like, I don't really like that. I want to change that. And so when I was going through all my photos on my computer, I came across all those older, like the free photos, all the cards that I had made, right? Yeah. And I was like, look, and so they were all sporadic. I think maybe the first one that I made was the High Priestess one, but I can't remember. I remember like harder cards the eight of, no, not the eight, the nine of wands. Oh yeah, yeah, that's the high priestess one there. Yeah. But the heart, I found the hardest, the nine of wands. The nine of wands. Yeah, I found that really hard. But then made it like there's a million elements in this card. I'm just
Yeah, there really is.
like I started with the storm and then the shipwreck and then the pathway, like, and it's just started opening up. What was the other one? Oh, the eight of swords. That one was hard too. Found that one. And that one has a million elements in it too, because I just kept adding. Like, so yeah, I would say that those were probably the two hardest cards, but then they end up so many layers in it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's tons that you've included, so it makes sense that that would be challenging, right? And then how do you lay it out? How do you put it together? What were some of the cards that you found easiest to create?
I love the moon card.
That one's beautiful.
Yeah. And so actually, that was actually a stock photo, but I reached out to her and she's a model. Yeah, it says at the back of the book. And I reached out to her personally. And I was like, can I use this picture? I just love it. And she's like, yes.
Yeah.
You just have to send me that picture.
Oh, I love that.
Okay. Yeah. So
amazing. That's a gorgeous shot. And I love how you've included all the different moon cycles along the top. That's really beautiful.
I just love it. I just love that card. That's the easy one. All the ones that my kids are in, those were all super simple and fun to do. Yeah, my son is the Knight of Cups. Larissa is the Page of Cups. Ira is the Page of Swords.
Oh, amazing.
Why for everything.
Yeah.
Astral, what? Oh, sorry. Something just came down. It said astralmermaid.art just added to my story. And I'm like, is that a scammer?
I don't know. There's so much of that now. It's ridiculous. Yeah, no, it's pretty nuts how much that's happening right now. So then, in terms of figuring out, because with the first deck, I'm sure there's a whole learning curve in terms of like, where do you get it printed? What kind of paper are you using? What kind of box? Like, what was that process like of figuring out all of those different elements?
That was super scary because I didn't know anybody to talk to that I knew, because I wasn't on Instagram a lot at all. I didn't know. And so, yeah, I Googled a lot of stuff. And I actually found, so Ben Bell, actually, I just love her decks, but she put out this Indy Tarot deck course book, because I had subscribed to her. Yeah, I'd subscribed to her email, and so she emails every day, I think. And it came across like this course, and I'm like, oh, yes, hello.
Yeah.
So I got that, and she gave so much information in that, and where to go to find printers, everything. So I followed her, and she even says, follow all my stuff to a T, because it's like worse. And that's why my book, like the inside book, looks like her books, because the stock.
Yeah, it does too. That's right.
Yeah. Well, she talks about like to keep your prices low for shipping as well. Keep it all under £1. If you do what I do, make the book the way that I make it, make the box the way I make it, make the card stock, then you're going to keep it low, keep shipping low, more sales, that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, she is a genius.
And the amount of information that she so generously shares is incredible.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. I mean, she is just such a wealth of information, and how amazing the serendipity of that course showing up exactly when you needed it. Like, I shouldn't be shocked at this point, but like when things happen with such synchronicity like that, I'm like, wow, like this is really awesome. Like there's something to this, right? Like yeah,
so I have her book and I recommend it to everybody. Like, you gotta get it. I don't know if she still has it. But anyways, yeah, so that's where
Yeah.
I was able to get that information, right?
Oh,
And
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, so it
Yeah.
became
Well, yeah, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you found it because having a resource like that is so helpful. I
Mhm.
mean, it's amazing to me how mainstream tarot has become compared to like 20 years ago when I got my first deck. It was this like niche little shop, and you kind of went to the back, and there was like maybe 5 tarot decks, and you
Yeah.
kind of pick and choose. And now there's so much available. Yeah. And you can find something for whatever interest you have or whatever focus you have. Or, I feel like everyone should see themselves represented in tarot. And I love that there is such a breadth of options available now. If you're into nature decks, you can find nature decks. Like there's a whole, it's really amazing.
No.
Yeah. And even in terms of like as a creator, I would think it would be an easier process now because you have people you can reach out to and you can discuss it with, and there's more of that available now, which I think is really wonderful. I mean, the downside is that there's a lot of decks that are getting copied and ripped off, and that there's kind of the underside of that. But I think the fact that it's so accessible now is really wonderful for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I
Yeah.
love that there's such a diverse, you can get cute little decks and
Yeah.
scary and bad.
And all the Halloween decks, all the witchy decks. I love that so much. My stack for like Scorpio season, because I usually shift things up by astrological season. So my Scorpio pile is like getting bigger all the time. It's ridiculous. I love it though. So then you went from the Ascension Tarot to the Odin's Playbook, a Norse Tarot Tale. So what was your inspiration for that deck? This one?
I don't know. It was just another wave of
Mm,
energy.
yeah.
And it's so funny though, when I knew that I wanted to dive into that, my first I was like, I'm gonna make like I laugh. I laugh now because I'm like, I'm gonna make this a bloody gory deck. You
Well,
look at
the Three of Swords definitely fits that, I think, but that's really the only one
that's the
that at all gory. This one, yeah, it's a little bit gory, but really it's not compared to a lot. It's not really
yeah.
too bad.
No.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
funny.
But it
Yeah,
was yeah, this is gonna be bloody and gory and gruesome. No, not at all. No, so through each card, it just started getting like brighter and more
yeah,
vibrant. Yeah,
so beautiful.
and the
And
sky started to light up, and
yes, like the star and moon cards are just incredible. Like the use of
yeah,
the Northern Lights and just that snowscape in the background,
yeah,
it's
that's gory.
incredibly
Gory.
soothing. What's that?
That's gory, right?
Oh, totally gory. Totally gory. But what I love about your moon cards in these two decks, Ascension and in your Odin's Playbook, is they're very gentle. Like the moon card can be incredibly challenging because oftentimes it's asking you to dive below the surface and see what you're hiding from yourself. There's this kind of shadow aspect of it that can be quite challenging sometimes. And I mean, it's still there, but I love that with both of these decks, it's a very soothing energy for that particular card. Because I don't know about you, but the moon card can sometimes be a bit jarring because it's like, okay, what am I not looking at? What am I hiding from myself? What am I,
Well,
So I love that it's kind of this gentle treatment of that particular card.
well, I know from myself, like the new moon is one that I struggle with. The full moon, that just passes me by. I don't even know that it's happening. But
Yeah.
the new moon is where my emotions go crazy. And so
Yep.
for me, it's almost like, yeah, so or,
Oh no, star.
yeah. So for the Ascension Tarot one, I love that image because you kind of just have to go with the flow. And like, it's almost like she's
Yeah.
dancing. So it's like, you just got to dance with it and flow with it and just take it moment by moment. So
Yeah.
that I wanted to depict it that way. And then
Yeah.
the Odin's one, that's just what came.
No, it's incredibly soothing. And yeah, I love that you have the two wolves here because oftentimes that's a pretty classic representation.
Yeah.
And I love the inclusion of all the runes in the cards as well. That's something that I'm relatively new to. So it was really interesting to be able to look at the associations and see how they showed up in specific cards. And um, I love that you also included the two bonus cards, um, Odin's runes with all the descriptions. That's so helpful. And then the All Father. That's come up a lot for me in my readings, actually, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I knew that I wanted to put like that cheat sheet in there because
Mm-hmm.
you just have it in front of you as you're reading, and then you can just have the words. And if you feel guided, then go to the guidebook. But I just felt like I want people to feel overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
you don't even have to read the ruins in it. You can just read it as a tarot deck, right?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
you can skip the tarot and you can just use it as the ruins too. It's up to you. But at least there's that extra layer in there.
Absolutely. No, I love that so much. Yeah, it's I had a question I was gonna ask you and it just went out
Right?
of my brain. Yeah, so how was the process similar or different for the Odin's playbook? Because it's a very different aesthetic. Like with the Ascension, there's kind of multimedia and photography, and then this one, it's all illustrations. And can I just say, I love this seer card, and I love too that you've renamed some of the cards with all of the suits and the major arcana too. But the High Priestess is now the seeress. Empress is mother, emperor is father. Those are kind of some traditional adjustments that people sometimes make with tarot. Hierophant is the elder, which is so great. I love that imbuing of wisdom and passing down of knowledge that is so much a part of the Hierophant card, because so often it's this hierarchical religious figure and there's that association with established structures and kind of dominance and kind of top-down approach. But I love that with the elder, it's kind of this transference of knowledge, transference of information. It's a softer interpretation. And then with the Wheel of Fortune, it's the web of word.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah. And I love that you've shifted those cards. And what was that process like of deciding how to adjust that?
It just, I don't know. I'm like, no, that doesn't suit the deck's
Yeah.
energy. I need to
Yeah.
change that. Right.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's all I got.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't need to be more complex than that. I think the creative process for me, especially it's getting out of my own way, right? I tend to overthink things all the
Yeah.
time. So it's like having that trust
Yeah.
and
This wasn't,
following your gut.
it was me creating it, but I was just the creator for someone else kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
The channel for creative.
But with this deck, it differed from Ascension because I did it one card at a time. So I started with Pool, right?
Yeah.
I did all the majors, then I did all the suits one by one, right?
Yeah.
But I also it's I don't know if you notice, but it's like it's structured. So each suit tells a story about that individual who becomes the the leader, the ruler. So I just wanted to go through that journey with them, and it was just such an interesting process because it's so funny when you go to, like, I know some people are planners. I'm not a planner. But the plan just came into flow, right? Like I didn't start out thinking, okay, I'm going to make this about each person and they're going to have a story and this is what's going to happen with them and this is going to be like, it just didn't, but it opened up like that. Like it just revealed itself like that, right? So
yeah, I love that evolution of that journey throughout, because as much as a major arcana is the fool's journey and you have a beginning, middle, and end, it's true with a minor arcana too, because there's this journey that happens from 8 through 10, and then you've got the court cards, and that is a journey and evolution of understanding and kind of personal evolution as well, as much as the major or the minor arcana. And I just love how you have reworked the court cards as well, where it's the poet of staves. Yeah, and then also there's the staves, the horns, axes, and rings, right?
yeah,
So it's a revisioning of each of the suits
yeah,
in a way that makes sense through the lens of Norse mythology. And I homeschool my kids, and we are obsessed with mythology in all forms. We ended up reading through all the Rick Riordan books and looking at Greek mythology and Egyptian and Norse and then referencing original stories and texts and kind of cross-referencing. So it was really cool. I showed my kids this deck and they got really excited about it because they're very familiar with Norse mythology and the different images and characters and stuff. Yeah, the Poet of Staves instead of the pages, and then I love the Shield Maidens for the knights. That's amazing. It's got that fierce warrior energy, and then the chieftains for queens and the ruler for kings. That's such a lovely envisioning of it in the context of this world of Norse mythology, right? That's really, really cool. Yeah, so then what was the process like for, because you're a self-taught artist, right? I believe. Yeah, so what was the process like for this with all the illustrations and the drawing? Like, did you do it on a tablet? What kind of technology, like what did you use to pull everything together? Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. So I just ordered the deck. Yay.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Yeah, so after Ascension, I was like, because I had to learn to do like the whole collage art thing. Like I had to learn how to do the photo and all that. And then I was like, okay, well, I wanna draw this next one, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I used Procreate.
Okay. Yep.
Amazing. It's
Yeah.
I bought some courses, practiced, learned, and then just started dabbling. And it's funny, like with some of the pictures in there, like I know which, like you can tell which ones are my earlier ones because as I'm going, I felt that they got a little bit better. So some of them I had to go back and like redo or felt like I had to redo them. Yeah. Or do it. But it was a lot of fun. Like I do, like I talk about my inner child a lot, but she's having a lot of fun right now. And something if I don't know, even a few years, 4 years ago, if anybody said that, oh, you're going to be making tarot decks and you're going to be drawing and you're going to be learning and drawing on tablets and I'm like, yeah, right. Like, no, like, and yeah, just, it's really meditative and it's been very healing. It's been it's a nice process, regardless of regardless of what we're putting, like drawing or whatever. It's just a nice meditative process. So anyways, I had to learn Procreate. I had to learn all kind of stuff and how to use that. And so.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it sounds like a really fun and creative process to kind of take on that new skill and explore something and just allow yourself space to play and have fun with it, right? Because that's so much a part of creative process. Like it's, like I said earlier, getting out of your own way. Like if you're overthinking things, then you can just take a step back and no, I'm just going to play around with this and see what happens, right?
That's all it is. It is scary to learn. It's completely scary. It's just like, oh gosh, I gotta learn that. I'm like, oh, this will be fun. This will be fun. Like, how is that not? You think little kids? Oh my God, this is so scary to color this picture. No, they that.
They're already out of their own way. I feel like as adults, we tend to overthink things or judge things or, whatever residual experiences you had with. I know for me, I had a grade 11 art class that I got like a C on a painting that I did, and it stayed with me forever. Like I still have a lot of work I need to do to unpack that and kind of reclaim my identity as an artist. Like I express myself through words, but in terms of visual art, I know my eldest is a huge artist. She's also self-taught, but she spent the last year intensively learning all kinds of different programs and different techniques, and what she's coming out with now is really incredible. I shared a fan art that she did of Inej recently. I'm just in awe. I'd love to collaborate with her someday on a deck maybe or something. I don't know. But just like watching her learn and watching her engage in that process like intuitively and without judgment. I mean, she tends to be very much her own self-critic in terms of, oh, what this should be different. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, beautiful, but she allowed herself that space to explore. And she actually wants to get into digital animation. potentially as a career down the road. I mean, she's 14, so she's got all the time in the world to decide what she wants to do, but I love that it lit that creative spark for her and that she learned through exploring and through trying different mediums and through, you know, now she's doing a sketching course throughout school and she absolutely loves it. And she's also done more multimedia stuff. And it's, yeah, it's really cool to watch that process unencumbered by grades or judgment or, you know, like it's nice to have that freedom to explore for sure.
Absolutely. And when she goes to high school, because I know Larissa, she's going to high school next year, and she's up in her room doing art right now. But
Yeah.
you can do like graphic art stuff in like
Yeah.
9.
Yeah, absolutely. I
You know what?
think we're going to continue with homeschooling, but it's amazing what's available at Outschool as well and different mediums for her to be able to explore that. Like we're still doing all the curriculum stuff,
Yeah.
but she has an opportunity to, if she wants to spend 3 hours working on a design in the afternoon, she can sit down and do that or look into different courses or, you know, it's amazing when you get to that level, what's available to explore, right? Like it's really amazing.
Yeah, I
That's
think,
really cool.
which is going to inspire you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I learn way more from my kids than they will ever learn from me. Like it's amazing. Well, we learn from each other, right? Like it's like an exchange, but it's fascinating to watch them grow and turn into themselves and figure out where their passions are, where their interests are, and kind of explore all of that, right? And they're so different from the get-go. It's amazing to see how much their personality evolves even from newborns on, right? And the things that they gravitate towards and show interest in. It's fascinating, right? Yeah. That's really, really cool. So I'm going to ask the same question for the Odin's Playbook. Which cards did you find yourself naturally gravitating towards? Which ones were more challenging? Like, what was that process like?
Oh, geez. I don't know. They
That's
were
a hard question.
fun. I'm getting my deck out right now because I'm like, I don't even know. Because I did them all one at a time, and I didn't fast forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Oh, to be honest, they all just flowed. Oh, well, the Lover's card, it was originally different, and then I sent it to Martin. Yeah, so it was originally a woman and a man out on the beach. And I sent it to Martin, and he's like, I don't like this. And I'm like, oh, which is, but it opened up my eyes to, I need to do this different for this deck.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so just 2 individuals meeting, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and normally, like, so in the other Lovers, it's got like, you know, the person in the background, the angel in the background, but so I use the shooting star instead to depict that. Yeah.
Beautiful. And that's also that spark that happens whenever you connect more deeply with someone or even yourself, like that illumination, right? That sense of awareness. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that one, I'm just going through it. Honestly, like, I don't feel I had any troubles with these ones. No, there wasn't any. I can say that my favorite suit of the deck was the swords to do.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, where I don't know, his energy was just loved it. I don't know. He had such a hard journey, and I think for me, the swords have always been really difficult to kind of learn too. So to connect by doing each, like, it just, I was able to understand a little bit more. And I don't know. I just love drawing him. I loved his hair and right? Oh, like I just love, So that was my favorite part of the deck. But other than like hard cards, I can say that. So the court cards, I did the majors, I did the suits, and then I did the court cards. Court cards I left to the end because I just don't like court cards. I don't like them. Let's just throw them out.
Well, I know that it's something that challenges a lot of people. And I know when I was earlier in my practice, I really struggled because the traditional understanding is often, oh, it's this person coming into your life and they're going to be light hair or whatever. You know, like there's certain associations with certain suits and certain cards. And for me, unpacking that meant taking a step back and looking at the different archetypes and the different suits and how that fits into my own personal experience. Because I think that we, as readers, have a little bit of all of the court cards in us. We all have a little Page of Swords. We all have a little Queen of Cups. And, you know, for better or for worse, some of the challenges or some of the kind of more actualized aspects of those, it wasn't until I started looking for that within myself that I kind of made peace with the courts, because I think as long as I was looking at it as something external, I couldn't relate. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, it can be really challenging. I did, Kimberly Sand from Fable's Den has a really amazing court card course that she put out, and I did that a few years ago. And for whatever reason, the way that she broke everything down made it really accessible to me for I think the first time, and like working through, and she looked at not just the differences between the pages and the knights and the queens and the kings, but also how that translates across the different suits and the commonalities and the differences, and somehow unpacking it in that way was really helpful. And I found Ethany's book on court cards also was a great resource for that as well. Like those two things really helped me kind of unpack that for myself. But I think so many people can relate to that because the courts are tricky. You know, it's like a really kind of personal but impersonal way of looking at this aspect. And there's that idea of kind of evolution from the page to the king. But I don't know. It's challenging for sure.
It is. I know for myself, to learn the court cards, I would like, because I did Bridget's year-long course. What's her platform?
Video, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did her year-long course, and the way that she had some really amazing teachings. I don't know if you've taken any of her stuff, but just incredible. She's just so sweet. And with the court cards, like she gives different ways for to learn, and then you can just pick and choose which way you want to do it. But with she's like, I want you to write down people within your own life that you feel fit into that card. So when that card comes up, you just have to pull that information, right?
Yeah.
And then it just makes it easier. And so that's the way that I was able to learn that.
Yeah,
so,
that's amazing.
Yeah, with doing Ascension Tarot, that was easy because I'm like, okay, well, that's what I do. Okay, this person depicts this person depicts. And I know that we all depict all the energies, but, you know, from first glance. Yeah.
Having that personal association with someone who embodies that energy in your life can be so helpful, because then it's a like quick reference point. Okay, Queen of Swords comes up, that reminds me of this person. What are the qualities that they have that plays into either this question or this moment in my life? How am I embodying this? How do I need to embody this? Like, yeah, that's amazing because it makes it so much more accessible, which is really amazing. That's really, really cool. Yeah, so then I also wanted to talk about your upcoming deck, this amazing walking meditation tarot. I have loved working with it so much. I brought it out. I have a tarot group that I meet with every 2 weeks. It was the first thing that I found when I moved to Halifax a few years ago. Now we're in Amherst. Yeah. But I found it in Halifax at the public library. It was just one of those meetup groups. And it used to be open to the public and kind of anyone would come. And that was interesting. But then it got kind of challenging because sometimes there would be kind of different dynamics that came in. Like there was one case in particular where someone came in and they were processing a lot of stuff and it was very heavy and it was very, but that's totally fine. But when the pandemic hit, everything went online, and now, and which is great because now I'm not in Halifax anymore, but I can still meet up with the group. And anyway, one of the women in the group is an artist, and she was commenting on how beautiful the images were. That was such a long-winded way of saying that, but yeah, I love working with this so much. And I love too, one of the things that I noticed is that you've separated each of the suits into different seasons,
Mm.
which is amazing. So the wands are spring, the cups are summer, pentacles are fall, and then the swords are winter, which is, I think, a fairly traditional association with each of the suits.
Yes.
So what was the process of putting this deck together like? And where did the photography come from? It was all photos that you had taken?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that like?
So, yeah, I've been, well, walking forever, but like
Yeah.
walking with intention for many, many years.
Mhm.
And throughout my walks, I would always just take photos.
Yeah.
Photos. I think most of my photos on my computer are of nature.
Yeah.
I just love that. I made the deck when I made Ascension Tarot. That's when I made it like what, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I made it just for personal use. And so I, post it every now and again on my
Yeah.
Instagram just for me, not being,
Yeah.
and then I would just get
Just one sec. Pippin's waiting at the door. I gotta let him out. I think brunch is getting close to ready, and he's so food obsessed. Anytime he hears anyone near the kitchen, he's like, "Okay, I gotta go get my grub now."
yeah.
Yeah, he's food obsessed. It's very entertaining. He'll do anything for a treat. So I knew it was coming, but I'm so sorry to cut you off. I was really interested in what you were.
Totally fine. Yeah.
Well, Tarot. Yeah, that's is also Canadian. Yeah, I see so much of Canada in this as well. I really feel that. Like it's so we spent my mom's family is in Toronto, and I've spent quite a bit of time in Ontario, and yeah, I love the color of the seasons. I grew up in Alberta, so it was all just yellow in the
Yeah.
fall. But being in Nova Scotia now and having spent time in Ontario, all the multicolors of the fall is so beautiful. Anyway, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. You were saying that you came up with the deck when you were working on Ascension Tarot and you used it in your personal practice and shared some photos to Instagram and things.
Yeah. And people just, they loved it, and they
Mhm.
were where they can get it. And I'm like, I don't know yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because I started an oracle deck back in, I took a couple months off after Odin's and I started making my oracle decks. I want to make
Yeah.
an oracle deck. So that's in the process.
Ooh.
But I just kept getting taps. They're like, you have some unfinished business. Like walking meditation tarot. I'm like, no. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, stop it. So I continue with the deck. Tap. You're not, you have to do this. Like,
Yeah.
stop. So I was like, okay. So I put a halt to the oracle deck, and then I started concentrating more. I started like, editing the cards just a little bit, changing things. Wrote the guidebook, and then I was like, okay, well, I want to write another book to go along with it. So there'll be a second book that goes with it on all the things that I do on my walking meditations.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah, I do, and that's a big part of. It's not just a tarot deck; it's the book too, and so it's a really of my three decks. I'm gonna say like this one is the most dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with walking and walking with intention, not that I'm healed, but I've healed myself through that practice. Really dear to me. And I don't just walk. I'm like a multitasker.
Yeah.
When I'm walking, I am doing an hour of stuff
Yeah.
in my practice. I'm not just walking and like, oh, there's a bird or whatever. Like I'm doing stuff, and I'm talking to my guide, talking to my higher self, or I'm talking to, alter dimensional beings. And so like, that's all in the book too, of everything that I do. So like, it's really, it's my heart on paper, and it's like me walking with you. So,
Oh, that's incredible.
yeah, it is. It's really like, so it's my photos, it's my, it's just it's my heart. And so I understand why they were like, tap, tap, tap. You got to
Mm-hmm.
do this.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you're including this book that has all these perspectives on how to bring something more to your walking practice. I walk all the time. It's my favorite form of exercise. I practice yoga and I love swimming as well, but walking
Yeah.
has been my constant. And I'm so
Yes.
happy that spring is here because in the winter it can be a little treacherous and precarious and getting out for walks just because of the ice and everything and the cold.
Yeah.
It's still beautiful in its own way, but yeah, getting out and being able to explore your practice while you're doing so is such a beautiful gift. And including the things that you have incorporated into your own practice and sharing that is such a beautiful resource because it allows other people to take that to the next level so they should they so choose, right? And incorporate different things and start that inner reflection process. That's very much a part of my walking process too. If I need to clear my head, I go out for a walk and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
doing something physical with my body, but my brain can just kind of go. It's like cooking for me as well. It's very much a moving meditation, right? Like, yeah, that's so beautiful. So, what was the process like of figuring out which photos were going to go with which of the cards? Was that an intuitive process again, or was it just something that you, yeah,
It was quick. It was really,
yeah,
really quick. It's
yeah,
like, again, it's like we're just like the conduit for something.
mm-hmm,
And it's like, Kate, that's this. And I went by feelings of picture,
mm-hmm,
right? And that's another thing that I like. Martin and Levi, they did a live with the deck a few weeks ago,
mm-hmm,
and they said you don't just have to just use this as a tarot deck. It can just be a really intuitive deck too, where you pick the card,
yeah,
the feeling that you get from the
mm-hmm,
card. It doesn't even have to be about tarot. And I
yeah,
really like that. Um,
mm-hmm,
like from choosing which cards, right? The
yeah,
feeling and the colors too.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Like, I love this Empress card is so stunning.
mm,
This evokes
I
a
changed. I okay.
feeling.
I changed that card. It's the same.
Yeah.
I'll show you, um, because so actually, so when I did that card,
Mm-hmm.
I did it as a photo. My mom really loved that photo, so
Mm-hmm.
blown up,
Yeah.
and it's in my kitchen now because my mom has since passed. I know that you know that. That's totally
Yeah.
fine. Totally fine.
Yeah.
And so I used that photo, but Martin was like, it looks a bit too painted.
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I used this one. I don't know if you can see it. So it's
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, it evokes the same feelings, but it's got more,
it,
yeah, because I can
it,
see what he means about the art aspect of this.
yeah,
That's gorgeous.
yeah,
Wow.
same one, but it when you have your own copy, when I send it to you,
Yeah.
you'll be able to see that it looks like the other cards now.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Hmm.
that's beautiful. Yeah, and it evokes such feelings. I love this lovers card too, where they're entwined together, the two
Yeah,
trees. That's so perfect
yeah.
for that. Yeah, no, it's they're absolutely stunning and they evoke so much emotion, each of the photos that you've picked. And I love this play of light in this one for the Wheel of
Oh,
Fortune.
oh, that one's gone too.
Oh, it is. Oh.
I actually, yeah. So, just a second, I'll show you. So this is what I did instead. This is what I did instead.
Oh, I love that. That's
Mm.
beautiful. I love the four seasons and the way everything is connected. That is perfect. Oh,
Yeah,
it's lovely.
I know. I'm
Oh,
like,
it's
having
gorgeous.
promo decks, and then all the information started coming in. They're like, "Oh, you should do this or change this or whatever." Yeah. So,
That's amazing, though, and it's wonderful that you can incorporate those insights into the final
oh,
product, right? Because yeah,
I love
yeah,
critical. What is it? Critical feedback, or
yeah,
you know, I love that because
yeah,
takes a community to create things and do things and
yeah,
I'm totally up for. I won't get defensive when someone's like unless I'm like so, I can't say that some things I'm like no, I'm not diverting from that because I know it's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
If it's
for
not,
sure. And it's about finding that balance of using constructive criticism to add to the deck as a whole, but then also sticking with what your gut is telling you is right for a specific card. So what does the World card look like now?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Just one second. Do, 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 do. Did the World card look before? Oh, yeah, because I used the wheel. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. So this is my absolute favorite tree on my walk.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm like, well, I have that in all the seasons because I took
Yeah.
take pictures in all the seasons. It's just the world and the cycle and the flower of life. And
Oh, that's gorgeous. I
yeah,
love it. And so much about the nature of the World card is that cyclical nature of working through different phases and then reaching the end point. But the end point is really a new start, like spring, right? So I love that so much.
mm.
And I wanted to ask you about your Moon Dog and Sun Dog cards. These are absolutely beautiful. So what are some of the meanings that you were thinking about when you came up with these ones?
So they're actually omens, and I had no idea. So my friend who I talk to every day, and we all like talk spiritual talk, and so I saw this thing in the sky one day.
Mm-hmm.
It was the sun dog, and I
Mm-hmm.
sent her a picture, and I'm like, "What is going on? Like, what is this? Like, because I never noticed it before. Like
Yeah.
sun, I've never actually noticed it before." And
Yeah.
she lived up in Yellowknife for a few years because her husband was military. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, well, that's an omen, like different weather is going to be coming. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
interesting.
like that. And so when I looked it up, there was other omens in it. So that'll be all in the book. And the same,
Oh, amazing.
yeah, and then the same with the moon dog as well. That has different omens associated with it too, which again will be in the book as well.
Oh, amazing. I love that so
Yeah.
much because it's something that I've seen in passing, but I haven't explored for myself very much. So that's going to be really amazing to be able to see what that's all about and see how that fits into different shifts. Like I feel like every time the weather shifts, I shift a little bit too. I mean, because you have a different emotion around a rainy day as you do around the sunshine. And I know like all the darkness of the winter when spring comes and there's more light and more brightness, it really shifts my psyche, for
Oh
lack
yeah.
of words.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing how much that impacts things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So what did you have a favorite suit for this deck that you
Yeah.
enjoyed working with? You have a favorite season, I guess, is the question, because they all shift so beautifully.
My favorite season is autumn. So
Oh,
that
nice.
was it. And I was
Yeah.
like, need more color.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the fall in Ontario is just stunning. I think it's similar to how it is here, actually, with all the different colors, but yeah, it's so lovely.
Well, I know in New Brunswick, like I just love going there in the fall because there's so
Yeah.
many maple trees even there. Like I find New Brunswick to be just absolutely stunning.
Oh,
Stunning.
it is. It is. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's funny because I was never a fall person. I tend to gravitate more towards spring and summer. And fall for me, I got bullied a lot in school. And so fall was always the beginning of
Oh,
the school season. And there was this sense of dread that would build up. And like I was excited about the start of a new year of learning, but then I had this kind of block around it. And I felt a sadness around the fact that everything was kind of going to sleep and everything else. But as I've leaned into studying more about the wheel of the year and really leaning into seasons and seasonal shifts and even working with astrology and leaning into those kinds of shifts, it's really helped me reconcile my relationship with fall as a season. And I really appreciate it now. And I see the beauty in it in a way that I didn't before. And going back to what you said about I'm just showing all the cards because I love them. But going back to what you were saying about new moon and full moon and how it impacts you, I'm very much the same. I find new moons always throw me for a loop, and I get really thrown off. And it wasn't until I started tracking moon cycles and even astrological seasons that I started noticing it for myself. I'm like, oh, this is why I'm off a couple of days every month. Like it really impacts me. And then I don't know if you've looked at what the moon cycle was doing when you were born, but I'm a waning gibbous, so just about new moon.
I
when
think
I was born.
yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
And
So,
I'm fine with the full moon cycle. I love it. It's usually typically really, really good, but I struggle with the new moon cycle. And I've started wondering for myself, is it because it opposes where it was at when I was born? Is that coming into play a little bit? Is that why I struggle with new moons, but I'm fine with full moons? So I haven't really unpacked that fully for myself, but I found it really interesting to see that I was born so close to a full moon, and that's where I feel most at home in terms of the moon cycle. So it was really fascinating to see.
yeah. I think I did look it up because I bought, what was that book called? Lunar Abundance by,
Oh, cool.
she's amazing on Instagram too. Yeah, she's Australian. Ezzy Spencer.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
Oh, it's an amazing book. Like it just walks you through every single, and it's just a really, I don't know if you
Ooh, that is incredible.
can't really see it. I'm this very well. But it's just this incredible book that helps you to understand every single cycle.
Yeah,
And I just learned so much from that. And because I was
yeah,
just like, what's going on around this new moon? Why am I
yeah.
feeling like, I don't know. I think it's important for women and men too, but to
Mhm.
explore that, and especially like with menstrual cycle too, like
Yeah,
that all is,
absolutely.
yeah, like it's just one more layer to understanding yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about it, the moon controls the tides, and we're over 70% water. So of course we're going to be impacted. Like my husband's like very practical, and he's not so into, he respects my practice of tarot and astrology, but he doesn't, it's not really his thing. But I've made that argument a few times with him, like, and he's so respectful of what I do, but I can tell like it's not his thing at all, right? So it's so funny. Let me grab, I've got a couple of moon books that I want to show you
Yeah.
as I knock everything over. I've got a couple books I want to show you too that are absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've started diving into it a lot too. I'm going to look up the one that you just mentioned because it sounds incredible. I found this, it's called Moon Power by Lori Reed, and
Okay.
it's absolutely incredible. And just aesthetically, it's stunning. Like the images that are included are just, I find so beautiful. And
Yeah.
it's corresponding with astrology and unpacking different
Mm-hmm.
aspects of moon cycles and how that comes into play and different placements and stuff. And it's just, it's lovely. It's aesthetically beautiful and also just full of amazing information. And then the other one, this book completely blew my mind. It's the Moon Book, Lunar Magic to Change Your Life by Sarah Faith Gottsteiner.
Oh,
And
wow.
it is
Dude.
absolutely incredible. I cannot recommend this book enough. Like, she goes into such in-depth information um, in terms of like how to live in moon time. She goes through all the different moon cycles and has different rituals, witches, magic in the moon, living in moon time, ways to work with the moon. She goes into each phase of the moon in such depth, like the new moon, the seed in space, waxing moon, full moon, waning, dark moon. Like it's incredible. Lunar lore and literacy, eclipses, blue moons, and more. And it's a thick book. And this blew my mind. Like it absolutely
I'll have to,
transformed how I see lunar cycles. And I've been following her for ages.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's just incredible. Um, and her account is also fabulous. She comes out with different moon horoscopes every cycle, and or for each astrological season actually, and readings and stuff and workshops. It's just all incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly recommend. I'm going to look up the one you mentioned too because it sounds incredible.
Yeah, I'll have to get the names like after. We'll just,
Yeah, yeah, I'll send it to you for sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
Cool.
that's amazing. So, in addition to your deck creation, you also offer tarot readings and remote healing sessions. Are you doing that so much right now?
Healing sessions, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't specifically really do tarot readings per se, but I do
Mhm.
incorporate that into the healing sessions at the end,
Oh, awesome.
reading with them. But basically, like the healing session is all remote anyway, so I get
Mhm.
intuitive readings. So they get a reading with it too. It's like
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
I don't know about you, and it's probably the same. Really, you don't need to use the cards. You already psychically, intuitively know. Like the more you use tarot, I find the less you even need it, because it just comes to you in a different way. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Is that making sense?
I do. And I'm gonna let Pippin back in. Come on in. My Dominic has a beanbag chair that he set up in the corner, so he's claimed he's got a fuzzy orange blanket, and he's like, that's his spot now. Nobody else can sit there. Yeah, I mean, for me, tarot is less a predictive model than it is a way for me to tune into my intuition. Like I use tarot as a way to tune into, okay, what's going on for me right now? What am I not seeing? Because like I said earlier, like laying it out in front of me makes it so much more obvious. And sometimes there's things that I haven't seen, or I'm unwilling to look at, or I need to unpack further. And somehow the tangible act of putting it down in front of me is very illuminating and very helpful. And it can be very healing sometimes. It can shift my focus where I need to put it, or give me insights on my energy or what's going on, or it's really powerful. And intuition is such a huge part of that, right? And it's, for me, it's a tool for accessing that more. And the more I work with it, like they're pieces of paper, right?
Yeah.
But they can open up so much of what's going on inside of you, right? Like I find it so fascinating how people imbue tarot with like evil intent or any of that, because to me, it's about like, it doesn't, anyway. Because it's such a healing practice, and it's such a beautiful way to tune in to yourself, right? And get to know yourself better and all of that. So I think we're getting close to, we're over an hour. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. I just wanted to let everyone, what's that?
I'm like, I looked at the time, I'm like, what? It's been like, what? And I'm like,
it just flew by. It's amazing. I just wanted to mention to anybody on the call or who's catching this, I'm actually going to be posting this to my IGTV and also my YouTube channel after, so anyone who didn't have a chance to join us live can still catch up. But I just wanted to mention that you can find your decks on your website, danielnorman.ca, and also follow along with your content on Instagram at astralmermaid.art. Is there anywhere else that you'd like to direct folks to find you? Or
my website?
Yeah.
I'm like on Instagram. You can just click. You can find me.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was an absolute pleasure. We've been chatting back and forth for a while, but it's our first time meeting like face to face, which is such a treat.
Very like introverted, hermity sometimes, and I'm just like, I need to feel like I can do it. I know you know.
100%. I hear you with that. I feel like the pandemic over the last couple of years has really tuned me into my inner introvert and my inner hermit, and it's been a great process of connecting with that, but I'm getting to the point where I'm needing to move out of that a little bit more and like go back out into the world slowly. And but it's a process for sure.
Totally is. Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you for joining me. This was an absolute pleasure, and it was such a treat to be able to talk to you about your decks and your process and everything that went into it. That was really wonderful. So
thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.